Hey guys, it's Arvind Vora, founder of Vora Method. In this video, we're going to talk about mining. You might say, well, what kind of mining? You mean like gold mining? No, not gold mining. Most of the time, gold is used for something stupid looking. You might say, well, how about diamond mining? Not diamond. If there's something dumb, it's 99% guaranteed to be diamond encrusted. I'm talking about real mining for something really valuable, something that actually is going to make your life better. I'm talking about mining for questions. Let me tell you guys something. The only thing of any value, the only questions of any value are hard questions. And when I say hard, I don't mean hard like it takes you 10 seconds to do them. I mean hard like it takes you several days or even weeks or even months to figure out. Here's the thing to understand about the SAT. The SAT is not a test of recall. It's not a test of how many formulas you know. Rather, it's a test of figuring out new problems. Listen, I've been doing SAT tutoring for over 20 years. I have perfect scores in the GRE and the GMAT, which are like the SAT, but even harder than the SAT, all right? And I'm gonna tell you this, if I took the SAT right now, today, there's gonna be at least one question on there that's like nothing I've ever seen before. And what I'm gonna have to do is figure it out. And when you take the SAT, you're gonna have to figure stuff out. You need to develop the skill of figuring things out. And you need a problem that's hard enough that's going to let you develop that skill. And so when we talk about mining, we mean mining for hard problems. Listen, you take an SAT practice test, there's a lot of nonsense in there, all right? We need to find the real stuff that has real value. So here's what you got to do. Let's say we can do, I'll walk you through how to do this with an SAT test. And I'm going to show you some better sources that you can use for better mining. All right. Thing number one, if you're looking at the SAT, if you're doing an SAT, looking at SAT practice test, here's what you got to do. You got to go through the problems one by one. Don't worry about the timer. Timers are relevant here. When you get amazingly good at this stuff, you're gonna have so much free time in the test, you're not gonna know what to do with it. You're gonna wanna like bring a book to the test because you have so much free time, and then you're gonna realize you're not allowed to bring a book to the SAT, and then you're gonna be sad. That's what I'm talking about. You have so much free time, all right? So when you take the SAT, when an SAT practice test, you gotta go through the questions, if you have a clock, just get rid of it. You gotta watch, get rid of it. You just take a look, you go through these questions one by one until you get stuck, and then you stop the test, all right? You don't continue the test. You don't be like, let me find my score. That's a waste of everybody's time. You need to find the hard problems. We are mining for things that are way more valuable than diamonds or gold here. We're mining for things that are gonna make you smarter. So you find a hard question, a worthwhile question, a worthy question that's worthy of you. You stop the test. You don't continue the test. You stop right there and then. And then you spend the next however long it takes to figure it out. If you're doing tutoring with me, guess what? Bring that problem in for tutoring with me. I'm not going to just tell you how to do it, obviously. I mean, I'm going to give you some hints or some guidance or not. Or I might say this is not a thing where you want hints or guidance. You want to keep thinking about it. The point is you got to get that problem that's a 2-3 week problem, and you got to think about it for 2-3 weeks. Here's what that looks like, by the way. You don't just like sit there looking at the problem just like for 3 weeks straight. You look at the problem for like an hour, think about it, go do something else. You come back, you look at it some more, you go do something else. You come back, you go do something else. And you go back and forth like this. It's not like you just sit there in a room, all right? So that's one way to mine for problems. But you might say, but what if there's a way to get better problems? A mind that's just chock full of these glorious problems. Guess what? There's even something better than a mind full of chock full of problems. There are two minds that are chock full of problems. Let's talk about reading first. Check this book out. Next 10 actual official LSAT prep test. What is the LSAT? The LSAT is the best reading standardized test that I know about. And it is used as a law school admissions test. If you're applying to law school, you take the LSAT, all right? Now, the LSAT has a lot of different question types in it, but there's one that you're looking for. You're looking for this kind. Now, what you're going to notice here is that there's one passage followed by one question, and then another passage followed by another question. So it's one short passage, one question. Those are the questions you're looking for. And here's what you do. You take a section of those and you do these questions one by one, thinking about them deeply. If you get stuck, good. That's what you want. You want the ones you get stuck on. You can check your answer after every single question if you want. And if you've gotten it wrong, then think about it more. Try to figure out what the right way to do it. When you're doing those, if you're doing tutoring with me, you got to bring those questions in. Like you can't, like, I mean, it's not that you can't be trusted, but in this case, like you can't be trusted. You can't trust yourself with this for this reason. It's too easy to say, oh yeah, I get it now. Oh yeah, I get it now is not what I want. I want to if you get a problem wrong, we need to deeply go into it, or you need to deeply go into it. Here's a nice analogy, or not analogy, just a story that I read about. It was from an American auto engineer, I think a GM or something like that, and they'd done this like a little trade program with a Japanese auto company. I think it was Toyota, and so the Japanese engineers came to America to learn about stuff, and the American engineers went to Japan to learn about stuff, right? And there's a particular type of yard where if you have an assembly line, sometimes a car comes off the assembly line a little bit wrong. And so what they got to do is then they kind of fix up that car, and then that's ready for selling. Now, the American engineer in Japan was like, where is that yard? And they didn't know what he was talking about. With a bunch of translations and translators, they figured out what he was talking about. And they're like, we don't have that. Well, it was like, well, what do you do if a car comes off wrong off the assembly line? How do you fix the car? They said, we don't fix the car. We fix the assembly line. And when you're doing these problems, the goal here is to fix the assembly line like your mind, not to be like, oh, the answer is B. I guess I should have said B, next problem. No. If you get a problem wrong on the LSAT, that is a minimum 1 to 2 weeks of thinking about it. If you're doing that for 10 seconds, you're not doing it right. You're not training right. So the first source of mining is the LSAT. And this is called the Next 10. There's like many different versions, but make sure you get the actual official ones. Don't get the actual official ones. Don't get the ones that are just produced by Kaplan or Princeton Review or some other just group of nonsense people. Get the real thing. The real thing is what you want over here. So that's the first thing. And remember, it's the one where it's one question, one passage, followed by one question, not one passage followed by 10 questions. That's the first source. The second source is going to be a source of mining for math questions, all right? And it's going to be called the GMAT. Now let's take a look at some of these. Let's take a look at some of these GMAT problems over here. The GMAT, again, very similar to the SAT in style, but the problems are more difficult. So here's what you want to do. There is a set of a large number of problems that look like this, normal problems. The GMAT also has a different type of problem called data sufficiency, where they ask you if something's enough information to answer a question. That's not what you want for this. You want these direct problem-solving questions. Notice how it's just a question and then a bunch of multiple choice answers, all right? Just a normal-looking math question. There's a list of 200 and some. I want you to go to the back of that list. Try to figure out the last question. Then go to if 2 or 3 months later, once you figured it out, go to the second last one. Now, when I say figure it out, I don't mean look it up on the internet. I don't mean ask your mom or dad. I mean figure it out. And that might take you a long time, and that's good. Hard problems are not supposed to be done in 5 seconds. So the second source is the GMAT. And this book is called the GMAT Official Guide. This is the 2022 edition. All the editions are basically the same. I have the 2022 edition just because you can get it on Kindle, and the most recent one just wasn't on Kindle when I got it. So those are the two sources. You got the LSAT, you got the GMAT. That's how you do your mining. Now, here's the key thing about this. These problems are hard, and these problems are supposed to take a long time. The greatest living mathematician, Andrew Wiles, it took him 35 years to prove Fermat's last theorem. Math excellence and reading excellence, grammar excellence, they don't come from spending 5 seconds on a problem. They come from spending 5 years on a problem. Now, you guys are beginners, so for you, maybe 5 weeks. But it's not like 5 seconds or 5 minutes. If you're doing that, you are not training right. The SAT is a test of figuring stuff out, and that's the muscle you need to build. You need to build the figuring stuff out muscle. So if you want to know how to do more training at home, that's how you do it. Mining and working on a small number of very hard problems, not a large number of very easy problems, a small number of very hard problems, and that is going to get you there. That's going to get you to where you need to be for this kind of stuff. If you guys have any questions, you guys need to have anything you need to know about, you can check out the website, vormethod.com, or if you are doing tutoring with me, set up a tutoring session, email me, whatever. Mining for hard questions is going to get you the training materials that you actually need to build your skill. Don't do a bunch of easy questions and pretend it's the same thing. Listen, 1,000 fools does not make a wise man, and 1,000 easy questions does not equal a hard question. Learn more about any of my programs. Check us out at voramethod.com. That's VOHRA, the word method.com.